Chapter 1, The Day I Died. It took me a long time to decide on the title for this book. The decision wasn't easy because titles carry so much weight, they set the tone and the expectations for what's to come. At first, I considered calling it The Day I Died, but I decided against it. That chapter, while significant, is not the most important part of the story I want to tell. It's a part of the journey, but not the destination. Another option that crossed my mind was, The Beautiful Day I Died. It seemed poetic at first, but I quickly discarded it. It sounded as though I was glorifying the act of dying, as though it were a beautiful thing to experience. And that's not what I wanted to convey at all. Death, in itself, is not beautiful. It's the moments, the emotions, and the peace I felt during that experience that were extraordinary. What I mean by beautiful is the vividness of that day, the perfection of the setting, and the serenity I felt. Even now, I remember it with astonishing clarity. It was the kind of day you'd wish for on vacation, where every detail felt idyllic. Let me take you back to that day, to the moment when everything changed for me. The weather was glorious. Not a single cloud marred the sky, and the sun blazed brightly, casting its golden light over everything. The heat was intense but softened by a gentle breeze that played with my hair. I was on a beach so pristine it felt like paradise, with soft white sand that seemed to glow under the sunlight. The sound of waves crashing against the shore created a rhythm that felt alive, as though the ocean itself had a heartbeat. The place was the Seychelles, a cluster of islands in the Indian Ocean off the eastern coast of Africa. These islands are often described as paradise on earth, and that day, it truly felt like one. I was there with my parents, enjoying our summer holiday. We had spent the morning exploring the island, savoring the freshest fish cooked over a beachside barbecue. I still remember the taste, the smokiness mingling with the salt of the sea breeze. We drank straight from coconuts, their water cool and refreshing, quenching our thirst as the sun beat down. I was happy. I was smiling. Everything felt perfect. The beach wasn't crowded, in fact, it felt like it belonged to us. I played in the sand and swam in the warm waters with a friend I had met on the island. He was a local boy, someone who seemed to share my love for the sea. Together, we darted in and out of the waves, laughing and feeling invincible. We had been swimming there for days and had grown confident, perhaps too confident, in our surroundings. It felt like nothing could touch us. The ocean was our playground, vast and inviting. But then it happened. A wave, far stronger than any we'd encountered, struck me with a force I couldn't have anticipated. It was sudden and overwhelming. The power of the wave shocked me, and before I could react, it pulled me under. I hadn't had time to take a breath. The wave had caught me off guard, and the small amount of air I had left in my lungs wasn't enough. I fought to surface, to swim upwards, but it was futile. The ocean had its grip on me, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break free. I remember looking up through the water, the sunlight refracted and distorted but still visible. It felt like the surface was moving farther and farther away from me, as though the ocean was swallowing me whole. My limbs grew weaker with each passing second, and I realized I didn't have enough air to make it back. The panic subsided, replaced by an eerie calm. I knew it was the end. My eyes closed, and I lost consciousness, sinking deeper into the water. Time seemed to dissolve, and everything went quiet. But then something extraordinary happened. In that darkness, I began to see images. It was as though my mind had opened a vault of memories, and they started playing out in front of me like a movie. I saw myself as a child, riding my favorite pedal car, the joy of it so vivid I could almost feel it again. I saw myself eating ice cream, savoring each bite, the sweetness lingering on my tongue. Oh, how much I loved ice cream. The images kept coming, one after another. My parents' faces appeared, their smiles full of love and warmth. My sister, her laughter ringing in my ears. I saw moments of pure happiness, hugs that felt like home, kisses that spoke of unconditional love. These weren't just memories, they were emotions made tangible. Each image carried with it the feelings I had experienced at the time. It was like reliving the best moments of my life, one by one. At first, the images played slowly, allowing me to savor each one. But then the pace quickened. The slideshow of my life began to accelerate, moving at a speed that should have been overwhelming but wasn't. Somehow, I could still see everything clearly. Every face, every smile, every moment of joy was crystal clear, and with each image, I felt a surge of emotion, gratitude, love, happiness. It was incredible, indescribable. It was as though the universe had distilled my life into its purest, most beautiful essence and presented it to me in those final moments. The pain, the struggle, the fear, all of it faded away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. I wasn't afraid anymore. I wasn't sad. I was simply at peace. Looking back, I've often tried to understand what happened to me in those moments. Was it my brain's way of coping with the end? Was it something more spiritual, a glimpse into what lies beyond? I don't have the answers, and maybe I never will. But what I do know is that those moments changed me. They gave me a perspective on life and death that few people ever experience. That day on the beach, the day I nearly died, wasn't just a turning point. It was a revelation. It taught me about the fragility of life, the power of memories, and the beauty that exists even in the face of death. It's a story I carry with me every day, a reminder of how precious and fleeting life truly is. And while I may never find the perfect title for this book, I know that its essence lies in that day, the day everything changed, the day I saw life through a lens I never knew existed. Then everything went dark again, and suddenly, I felt myself floating. There was an undeniable force pulling me upwards, but I couldn't see my body. I didn't even feel it enough to move it. The sensation was more like being gently sucked into a tunnel, one that felt like a tube. My arm just dropped, floating in the air as if weightless. My eyes remained fixed ahead, drawn to the light at the far end of the tunnel. On the edges of the tunnel, I could barely make out shadows and darkness. I wasn't sure if there were other people being drawn into this tube with me, but it didn't matter. My gaze stayed locked on the light above. It was hypnotic, and I felt as though I was rising, inching closer to the light. Soon, I would be there. To describe how I felt in that moment, I wasn't sad. I wasn't scared. I was not feeling cold. I didn't feel anything negative. I felt light, calm, peaceful, and free of fear. There was no pain, no uncertainty, no questions about what was going to happen next. It was as if I instinctively knew this was the way forward, and there was nothing to fear. I didn't question it. I was at peace. And then, in a flash, my eyes opened to the living world for what seemed like a second. I saw the sky and the sun, and I felt someone pulling at my neck. Then, everything went black again. I knew I had returned, momentarily, to the human world. At that moment, I was disoriented. I had no idea what was happening. Then, once again, I found myself in that same tunnel, in the same state as before. I believed someone had tried to save me, but it didn't work. Still, that was okay. What I believe happened next is that, after a few minutes, my eyes opened again. This time, I was lying on the sand. Someone was over me, performing CPR. I felt them pushing on my chest, and with it, the water that had filled my lungs began to leave my body. As the water poured out, the pain of being alive surged through me. I was alive, and it hurt. The little boy about 10 years old that I had once been now felt the pain of existence. It was a miracle that I had returned, but it felt terrible. The first thought that ran through my head was not, "Thank you," but rather, "Why did you bring me back?" I couldn't speak. I was too weak to move. I lay there, immobilized, for several minutes. The person who saved me, my friend, told me that it was a girl, about 15 years old, who had been on the island. I never saw her face, only her long dark hair, as the sun had blinded me. She had saved me and then left. Perhaps she was scared, or maybe exhausted after all she had done. She was probably more traumatized than I was. She was the true hero that day, my hero. I could never thank her enough. How could I? No amount of riches could repay her. A life is priceless, and she taught me that. She risked her own life to save me, even though she had no idea who I was. She worked on me, giving everything she had, probably thinking it was too late but still doing her best. And somehow, after so many minutes, I was back. I believe I had been submerged for at least 5 minutes, maybe even longer, unable to breathe. She saved me, even though she had no reason to. She didn't know me, and yet she acted with such courage and selflessness. She showed me the true power of humanity. Her actions proved that, in extreme circumstances, a person could rise to unimaginable heights of bravery and compassion. As strange as it may sound, it took me time to come to terms with the fact that I should be grateful to her. At first, I didn't even understand how she had come to rescue me. Did she jump from a small cliff to reach me? Did she see me from the beach? How had she gotten to me so quickly? Had my body floated back to the surface of the water, and she had grabbed me? I still don't know, and perhaps I never will. But in the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is that she was there for me, my guardian, my angel. That is how I choose to remember her. Years passed, and I wanted to find her to thank her, but I never did. It took me a long time, years, even, to speak of the experience, even to my own parents. I never returned to that place, though now, I sometimes wonder if I should. But even if I never see her again, I will always carry her in my heart. She was a stranger who saved my life when I needed it most. Her courage, her selflessness, and her compassion will stay with me forever.